You're listening to Online Pet Health Podcasts with Dr. Megan Kelly. Continuing education for veterinarian rehabilitation therapists. Learn more at onlinepethealth.com.
Hey vet rehabbers, today I'm joined by Ben Blecha from Wiggleless Back Braces. Now, most of you will know him as the orthotist or prosthetist of Hero Braces, but today he joins me to chat about back braces in dogs. Now, the main indications for use of these braces is our IVDD cases, but I found it really interesting to hear that some vet rehabbers are using them in degenerative myelopathy cases. More about this in my chat. Over to Ben. Hey Ben, thank you so much for joining me.
Hey, thank you. It's fun. Fun to meet you again.
Ben, obviously myself, on Pet Health, and the listeners all know you as the owner of Hero Braces. Tell us how you got involved with Wiggleless Braces.
Well, we were actually trying to figure out how we could work together at some different meetings, and Lisa and Dave were kind of deciding they were going into retirement, and they said, "Hey, would you mind buying our company?" And we looked at it, and I kind of looked at what, obviously we're trying to market together, so I believe somewhat in their product already, but I saw some things that I could do, and so we made it happen. Here we are.
So tell us about the products that Wiggleless has.
Sure. Primarily is our back brace. So we have, I don't know if you can see that there. The back brace is our primary one, but on the website, we have lots of pain and anxiety relief products as well. We carry like the loop and different pharmaceuticals and whatnot. So, yeah.
And when would we use one of these back braces for our patients, and what conditions?
Yeah. So initially, when Dave and Lisa designed this, they were looking at the Dachshunds and the IVDD. So they had these really small sizes and whatnot. And that was primarily all they were going after. They started expanding the sizes some. And obviously there's some other breeds, the Frenchies and whatnot, that do have the IVDD. Since we've started working with it, we started working with Carrie Adrian, and then Kiki over in Germany. And we're starting to see some other different diagnoses. Carrie started using it with DM, and she had a shepherd that she put in one of the braces. And I think it's going to be important what time frame you catch it in DM. But what we found is it really stabilized the core. And so the dog could stay more active for longer. They weren't, because they didn't have these big body motions, they could reserve some of their energy and stay active longer during the day. And I think I can't say for sure, we need to do studies, but in doing that, it should be able to help extend their life and their quality of life. I think it's Purdue, they're looking at how can we help these dogs that have some fractures in the spine, and what levels can we help with? So there's a lot of stuff that we're looking at still. We're not quite sure what the results are yet. Obviously, with everything, we need more studies. We're kind of expanding our sizes to be able to throw a larger net to try some of these things. So.
The founders of Wiggleless, when they started it, what was their main goal for creating it? Was it to stabilize or to decrease movement? What were they thinking? Obviously they must have extrapolated and thought about humans. And when humans have a back problem, they'll have a back brace. But it's a little bit different, because obviously animals are on 4 legs and humans are on 2 legs. So one of the things I think about is like the weight of the brace. Like in a human, that weight is distributed through your legs, right? Through your hips and your legs. Whereas with the dog, is the weight on the back something that we need to take into consideration?
Well, I think the back brace is trying to limit that. So if you look at the brace, I mean, you can't see it here, but it doesn't bend completely. So what basically it's called boning. It's or a stay, depending on, but it's kind of a metal piece that comes across, and so it supports up above the shoulder, clear to the hind. So then that helps. So the whole back, you don't have the sway. It's actually supporting that. So it's not really adding to the weight. It's not like you're adding a weight right on the belly and pulling down. You're actually trying to lift the belly and what you're trying to do with the mechanics of it. To say exactly what they were going after, I mean, they're good-hearted owners that, they had a Dachshund that had IVDD, and they didn't see anything out in the market. I mean, this was 12 years ago or so. And so they just started, how do we wrap this around? How do we, and it's kind of like, how do you make it fit, but then can they still toilet and all these other design things that you have to figure out that are more complicated than they are with humans, in a lot of ways, because the back braces that we have don't restrict us from toileting as humans, but they will with the animals. So.
No, I mean, there are lots of challenges. Obviously, also the lengths of the backs and all the different shapes and sizes. I mean, so like, making sort of generic sizes compared to custom sizes. So how do yours work? Do you have certain sizes? I mean, are they like specific Dachshund ones? And then you have other breeds? Because I mean, obviously, Dachshunds are a predominant breed that we're seeing with IVDD.
Right. Well, so when they started their design, I think they had like 9 different sizes. Then they went and they kind of redesigned everything, and they tried to prune it down to 4 sizes. I think we found that we need to expand it a little bit more again. And the length is a little bit easier to address than the chest size. So if you think, like a French bulldog, their chest size compared to a Dachshund, the back may be similar lengths, but the chest is so much different. And so what we've actually started doing, and I don't know if you can see this here, but on the front of it, we've put a buckle in that it's got 3 different directions. So we can adjust in 3 different directions, so we can expand the chest size around the front. There's still things that we're trying to work through and make sure that this is the correct buckle and what's going on with that. So I think where we've been missing is it the wee little dogs, the Chihuahuas. And so we're looking at that, and then like the larger Great Danes and breeds like that. So we're expanding on those ends with it, but the barrel chested, the pit bulls and those bigger chested dogs, with this new adjustment and new design that we're adding, I think that will take care of that as well.
So I mean, is there an option for somebody to do a custom size, or do you normally is there a form that they fill in and then you try and work out which size they should get?
Right now we don't offer custom, but here's the caveat: we're trying to design these new sizes. So if someone has a dog that's not fitting into that, then we want to work with them, and we'll ask for some pictures and some different sizes, so we can try to make those designs better, so we can have that broad spectrum to fit all the breeds. I don't, we do everything that we do for the Hero braces is all custom. I don't think we can quite do that the same with this brace. The problem is there's so many different measurements that you would have to take for this to be custom, and I don't think casting really makes sense for this at all. And if you think about, just like if you're trying to take a measurement on a thigh, if you get it, a centimeter or 2 high or too low, it means a lot of difference in circumference. So it makes it more complicated to try to do it custom, I think, than it does to have some sizes in this case. But there's also more room for adjustability, and you have a longer span around the chest that you can put straps that can change and be adjustable. So I think this is a viable brace that you can do off the shelf, where I just don't believe that with like the Stifle or something like that.
Yeah. So you obviously are looking for patients and candidates for the larger breeds. So especially those DM dogs. I find it so interesting that, you know, Carrie thought about putting a back brace, because if I think about those dogs, especially those German Shepherds, I mean, if you think about them, they're just all over the place, right? Their front and their back are just wobbling everywhere. Yeah, and it really makes sense now listening to what you're saying, just sort of keeping them aligned and supporting them, and allowing them actually to conserve energy, because that is just hectic, them trying to control their bodies. So you probably need those larger breed dogs, some sizing. So yeah, if there are any listeners, I'm sure that Ben would be really happy if you can reach out. If you've got a case, a DM case, that you're thinking, oh, maybe this would work, reach out to Ben, and maybe you guys can work together to get a sizing for one of those larger breed dogs.
Yeah, we'll be happy to work with you. We just want you to share some videos so we can see what's going on and better understand what's going on. So
yeah, and I think also the more we the more we experiment with these kind of things, if I look at our field, it's such a growing field, and as you said, we need so much research, right? So a lot of what we do is anecdotal, and I think about clients that I've had, where I've initially thought, no, I don't think that the back brace is really going to help. And the owner has ordered a back brace, and then they come back and say to me, it's made such a difference. I bet you've got loads of stories like that, because I've seen a lot of the reviews of the owners, and the improvements that they've seen. And we in that stage now where we got to do the research to work out why. So what is it actually that is helping them? What are we doing that is causing those improvements? Can you go through some of that feedback that some of the owners have given you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's always tough to judge the owner's feedback too much because they don't understand the mechanics. I mean, they're just happy. Their feedback is that their dog is happier, right? Or their dog is more active. They don't understand the nuts and bolts of why. So I try not to dissect too much unless they say something that's like really outside of what I'm normally used to hearing, right? But I've thought about this with the braces, like, I'm taking a master's course now. So when I graduated, it was just a bachelor's degree, and now, it's a master's degree. So I'm taking a master's course, and I'm actually in a spinal course right now, which is kind of beneficial, right? I just have this new business, and so just refreshing some things from 20 years ago, my first time around is, I think it's really understated, and really the understanding. So many people think that a back brace is just supposed to stop motion, but a big way that the brace works is just from circumferential pressure. So if you think if you grab onto a balloon and you squeeze a balloon, it distracts either direction, right? Well, when we provide circumferential pressure around the body, what it does is it distracts the body, and then it opens up those joint spaces. So I think that's kind of one thing that's understated, and one thing that can kind of change the thought process about how this is working. So many people are scared that a back brace is going to weaken the spine. And just like I say with the others, if you think a brace is going to weaken a spine, you're using it wrong. You're using a hammer as a screwdriver. It's just, if you look at this brace, it's rigid, but I can still bend it. The body can still contract inside of it. The muscles are still doing those things. But it also provides proprioceptive feedback. So like in this DM case, instead of this great big movement, all of a sudden they butt up against it and they're like, hey, no, I shouldn't go this far, and maybe I shouldn't contract now. And so it starts giving the dog more feedback on when to contract and do these right things. So without studies, we can't say, and how do you measure the paraspinal muscles very effectively? I mean, you almost have to do something like a CAT scan, or, to understand what that changes before and after. So I don't know that study would ever be really feasible. So it leads us somewhere not clear to subjective. I'm not saying that we need to go to the owner's input, but how do we measure these types of things? And so actually we're working with Kiki, and she's starting to use some of these dogs and putting them on the treadmill, and she's measuring things like, how are their stances, are they wide, how sporadic they are, and we're finding that they're being more stable, they're being more consistent in their walking patterns, and this is for mostly what she's done is dogs with having some periphery problem. It's not even a spinal problem in a sense. It's just stabilizing the spine. So during your therapy, you can really focus on the part that's injured, right? Mm-hmm. If the spine is stable, then you can do that. You take it off, and then they've already practiced in the normal. And so instead of trying to juggle 30 balls, we're only juggling 1 or 2. And so we're actually working at some add-ons that we can reach to the periphery, to the limbs that can connect and help with more consistent stride patterns and those types of things. So those are some fun add-ons that we can do just with thinking of this as more of a core stabilizer versus, something that's going to stop and reduce muscle mass or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, what you're chatting about I think is a concern, because people think, when we splint or brace something, we have to be careful that we're causing so much immobility that the muscles are being deactivated. So like, one of my things I think about is if there is no mobility at all, those epiaxial muscles are being deactivated, and we obviously need that for dynamic stability of the spine. But as you say, it's not immobilizing it. It's really just protecting it. So there's still movement within there. It's not a rigid brace that is attached. And I think even a rigid brace, I think there would still be movement. I don't think you're actually able to fit it so that there is no movement. Those stays that you have in there, I mean, is there an ability to remove some of them, so like to get more movement as they strengthen, or is it sort of fixed how many stays are in the brace?
Yeah, I mean, there's stays that go all around, and so I mean, I'm telling you how to tear my brace apart now. But basically, you can just take a little razor blade and cut through one edge of it, and you can actually pull that stay out. If you want, and then just sew it back together, or you could actually probably just leave it. So yeah, if you wanted to remove some of those, you could. Warranty is no longer.
Yeah, so if you wanted a little bit more movement there, you could. I love that idea, that what Kiki's doing, and like you're talking about, some extra attachments. So like one of the things as you were talking, I was thinking about some of our neural cases, where the spinal brace would be really, really beneficial to support their core. And then if they've got proprioceptive deficits, something that's attached to the feet that then attaches to the brace that helps with placement. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like
that. Some sort of TheraBand that goes in between it. So, yeah.
So we've got the added effect of stabilizing the core, activating the core, and then getting the placement right.
Right.
I have to chat to Kiki, and obviously for the listeners out there, Kiki was one of the founders of our research group. And at Vet Rehab Summit last year, we had a group that got together, and they basically created a working group for research. And so if any of you are interested in getting involved in any of these kind of things, you can reach out to Kiki. We'll put the link to the working group sign up in the description. Yeah, it's something that we really need. We need to be thinking about all these things, exactly what you're saying now. And Kiki, obviously in the forefront of it and doing testing and looking at different things, which maybe eventually will lead into some other research, so yeah, very, very exciting. So is there any time when it's detrimental to use a back brace?
Yeah, I don't know that I have anything that jumps out a lot right now. I mean, if a dog really truly needs surgery to stabilize the spine, and the owner just thinks, hey, I'll put a back brace on him, like, that's going to be a detrimental time, right? If it's structurally that unsound, we need to address it in the right manner. I think with any of it, it's following it and seeing the feedback on it. Like I was talking about with the DM dogs, it's finding the right time, and it's a window. As we know, it's a progressive disease. So if it gets too far along, when you put it on, some of the dogs we've heard will freeze up, and they won't move. Now, I don't know if that's just something they've already determined. They start to understand that they can't do what they used to do, and they start to get that feedback. So I think you have to catch earlier on in the DM process to keep that core stable. If it's too late, then I don't know that it's beneficial. Yeah, I think it's pretty forgiving. So, I mean, trying it, even just keeping some on hand in your clinic and then seeing how they react with it before you have an owner buy one is a simple thing to do as well. So
I suppose also different doggy personalities, some breeds are more tolerant with those kind of things than others.
Well, and it's like with anything, you put a boot on a dog and they're going to do this high step, or, some will just look at you and say, seriously, what are you doing to me? And I think that happens with the brace too. They're like, and so, but that has to do with working through it. Some of them aren't going to, but some people are ready to give up. If they're not going to do it right away, they're ready to give up. So you have to trick them into some different things and go play right away after you put it on, and then they don't recognize that it's a problem. But as with anything, the owner's personality intertwined with the dog's personality has a lot to, they're projecting what they think the dog is doing, when it's like, no, you just make them go play, they'll be fine. And a little tough love fixes some things too. So
what are your plans for Wiggleless for the future? Is there anything new in the pipeline? So look, how do you see your guys making a difference in the veterinary industry?
Well, so, Hero has been focused on custom rigid braces. And I think this provides a conduit for me. Like, I have lots of ideas for other brace designs. And so I think this provides a conduit for me for more of the soft, off-the-shelf versions of stuff. There's some diseases I don't think will ever be a soft design. The cruciate is too minute of a thing to do that. But there's some other things that we definitely can help with. So I think over time, just some of these other ideas that I have that I haven't been able, and there's some disease processes, that we just I haven't focused my time on, like hip dysplasia. What can we do with that? I haven't seen anything real good out there to this point. We do a couple things on the human side, but there's there's only so many hours in the day, and I feel like those are in a good place, the hero stuff. I have a good team doing that. And so like this is a kind of a new creative space for me now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really exciting. I mean, to have sort of a new branch that you can, investigate all different things. So we're looking forward to seeing what comes out of all the soft braces, and hoping that you can help more of our patients.
Yeah, yeah. And if there's anybody that out there that has an idea that like they want to focus on their practice, but they want a conduit to sell it through or help develop it, reach out to me. I'll be fair. You get some of the money too. Like let's make it happen. Let's help the community. But this can be a platform to do that. So
awesome, Ben. Thank you so much for your time. So guys, reach out. We'll put all Ben's contact details in the description of the podcast. Otherwise, you're welcome to email myself or Online Pet Health at meg@onlinepetshealth or info@onlinepetshealth.com, and we'll put you in touch with Ben. So awesome. Thanks so much for your time, Ben. It's been great chatting to you.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for the great shirt.
I love it. Vet rehabbers never stop learning. Wear it well. Cheers, Ben.
Take care.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please hit the subscribe button so you get notified every time I load a new podcast. And please, if you get a moment, head over to Stitcher or iTunes and leave me a review. It's a really lonely job being a podcaster, and so the only time I get to hear from you or know that you're out there is when I get a review. And know that I read every single one of your reviews. So to those of you that have left reviews, I want to say a very, very big thank you. Every time we get a review, it really helps to get the veterinary rehabilitation podcast out there to all the vet rehabbers all over the world. All right, vet rehabbers, so if you are looking for more continuing education in the field of veterinary rehabilitation, head over to onlinepetshealth.com. Go be awesome, guys.